Hello, my name is Kate McKenna. I work with the Staff College. Welcome to all of you that are listening to this Staff College in partnership with Grit podcast. Welcome also to Ellie Garraway and Cara McLaughlin, who are joining me today from Grit. Ellie and Cara, can I just ask you to briefly introduce yourself, please, and the roles that you have in Grit?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So I'm Ellie. I'm the Chief Executive of Grit, and I've been working with Grit for about 20 years.
Hi, I'm Cara. My job is the head of training and development. So my job is to really deliver the training and train other trainers in that delivery. And I've also been working with the organisation for 21 years and known Ellie all that time.
That's brilliant. That's really helpful. Thank you. We're hoping that through this podcast, we're going to be able to introduce Grit and the work that you do as an organisation, but also to help colleagues who are listening in to decide whether or not you want to join us in our workshop series that we're offering in partnership between the Staff College and Grit. So I'm going to begin, Ellie, by asking you to tell us a little bit more about Grit and how Grit works.
Yeah, sure. I suppose, so just to give people a bit of context, Grit is a charity. We've been going for over 25 years, and it was founded around a training methodology. And it was a training methodology that originated in the corporate sector that was designed to transform and create breakthroughs in attitude, mindset, and belief system. The thinking behind that was, if you want to create really significant and sustainable change, you can't do that just by working with people's behaviours or by restructuring and changing systems. There has to be a bit of it, a significant proportion of it, that is really asking people to reflect on how they think, how they see themselves and how they see the world, and giving people the opportunity to find their blind spots and the limitations that they've built into their own systems. And Grit, when it was founded, was all about bringing that training into the service of young people. So being able to deliver it directly to young people, but also being able to deliver it to professionals whose work impacted on young people.
That's really interesting. And I'm conscious that our initial venture in our partnership is going to be looking at offering a series of workshops. So I wondered if you could just share the sort of like the workshop structure and the content of the workshop so that colleagues can understand what it is that the offer is. Cara, perhaps I can ask you for that one.
Yeah, how we've designed the trainings and the workshops is in 3 consecutive days. Well, actually they're not consecutive, there's 3 days, and people can attend all 3, or they have to at least attend the first one, because that really does set the context of how we work as an organisation. The fundamentals of our training is really taking time to kind of reflect on what's working, what isn't working. And so during that day, there's going to be some areas that you'll have an opportunity to explore. The first training is mainly around the sort of theme of responsibility. It's probably an area that you're all very familiar with, but what we really do is take a sort of a new look, a new appreciation of what is responsibility. And there can be a sort of an inherited relationship to responsibility that can be seen as quite a burden. It could be seen as quite a heavy area that can be filled as much as with praise and recognition, but also blame and fault, and kind of really starting to look at actually what would be a relationship with responsibility that's much more around you being at the center of the cause of what you want to see to happen, and to what's going to really have you be able to achieve the results that you want to get. So that's the first workshop. Then you've got the second one, and what we're really looking at on the second one is a coaching approach, which mainly is around your ability to listen. And the biggest thing inside of that is really inquiring in the difference between listening to yourself and listening to others. And I would say few people realize just how much you're often, you know, shaped by your own listening to yourself, your own biases, prejudices, core beliefs, values. And we often don't consider that what we're really seeing isn't maybe the reality as the reality, but actually we're seeing it through our experience of the reality based on our core beliefs. And so there's an opportunity to really begin to explore that distinction around listening that will create a space to be able to then listen fully to others. And then we've got the third workshop, which is around coaching. And really the ability to engage in conversation with others that's really about listening fully to what they're saying, but also being able to move things forward, engaging in conversations that are very proactive and you know, really working on you know, discovering what the motivations of an individual and what it is you really want to get out of a situation. And then on top of that, then there's really starting to look at what's our relationship to support, and beginning to explore that relationship and how do you access and offer support that people utilize it and use it in order to be able to achieve the things that are important to them. So they're the 3 days, and that's really the themes that we'll be covering.
Okay, and it's really interesting, isn't it, to be having this conversation at this time, because you know we're having this conversation in the virtual world, and I'm conscious that a lot of leaders are operating in a virtual world. So how, you know, that engagement with others is going to be a really interesting time to be looking at that. Why do you think it's important for people to engage in this type of training at this point in time?
I mean, I probably would say I always think it's important. And why I always think it's important is that much of our lives is focused on doing. And we sort of talk a lot in Grit about we're human beings, you know, the being came first before all of the doing. And yet a lot of the work that we do when we're training, when we're developing and when we're existing focuses in on what we do. We don't give ourselves many opportunities to have a space, a particular kind of structured space in which we can examine what's the being that I bring with me to all of this doing that actually has a massive influence over my experiences, the impact I can make, who I can be for others, who I can be for myself. And yet we spend so little time investing in really being able to explore and challenge that. So for me, particularly, I'm passionate that people whose profession impacts ultimately on young people have this opportunity. You know, they're being demanded from the professionals who work in local authorities, in children's services, are being demanded from every day, now more than ever. They're in this role where there's a lot of output. So, you know, a lot of what they do is giving, and being able to create some space where they can reflect and invest in and receive some input into who they are and how they can examine that, so that their sort of resources are topped up moving forward, that they've got a kind of different foundation to move from. So for me, it's always important, but now more than ever, because of the extra challenges that are in the mix.
I mean, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and I think you've just really clearly highlighted that people who join us in this opportunity need to bring with them that sort of willingness to self-reflect and, you know, to really examine themselves in the work that they're doing. What else are colleagues required to commit to as part of joining the workshop series? Because I'm assuming it's not just a dial in and listen opportunity. There's a commitment here.
Yeah, well, actually, when you say dial in, I think probably one of the biggest things is to be visual. You know, we've been working on this platform, you know, for several months, and one of our requirements is to actually be seen. So, you know, actually to turn on your camera and connect with the other human beings in the space is essential. So, and it requires you to participate. So to be there the whole time from when it starts to it being finished, and yeah, being present and being willing to engage and share your opinions, share your ideas, share what's working. I'd say most importantly, in order to access this training, there is a requirement to come to the first training. You you know, once you've completed the first training, then it's up to you whether you then, you know, do all three. That is our recommendation, that you do all three. But then, you know, once you've completed the first, then you may you can then choose to do the second or third. What has that be important is that we're going to really be laying the foundations of how we work in that first session. And it can feel unusual because what we're creating is a space to engage in conversation that requires it to be safe. So, you know, it's been able to give people an opportunity to really share, you know, what's going on for them, like, you know, what's the challenges, what's the like personal, professional challenges that they're facing, and how is it that they can begin to, in sharing that, see new possibility. So on that first session, you know, that's where you're going to really create how we're going to work together, which will then allow people to drop in more easily to session 2 or 3. And then, yeah, the willingness, really what you said, Kate, the willingness to share what you think, share how you see yourself, how you see your work, how you see others, how you see the world, and then be open for that to be challenged. Not that there's anything wrong in what you're seeing, but the training is really designed to kind of open up possibility and open up new choices. And so a willingness to come and also be challenged in how you're viewing the world. So they're probably the two major things for me. If you come with that, then there's a lot to gain.
And I think, just picking up on that point, I'm hopeful that colleagues that are listening into this are now thinking, okay, then this sounds really, really interesting. So you just ended on the, so, you know, there's a lot to gain. What, Ellie, maybe you can answer this one. What have other colleagues that have worked with you said that they're benefited from working with you and the work that you and your organisation do?
Yeah, we get a whole range of feedback, really. I would say probably on the very positive end, we do get a lot of people saying, and I know it almost sounds like a cliche, but this has changed my life. It's changed how I do my job. It's reignited my passion as to why I came into this work to begin with. It's changed how I see things. It's changed even some things that I couldn't have perceived or even brought to the table that have been altered to do with relationships, you know, outside of work, just being able to see people and listen to people in a different way. But alongside that, we've had, you know, organisations really changing the way that they run meetings, to allow for listening to each other in a different way, using some of the great concepts like responsibility to change the language that they use, change the way that they can challenge each other. Sometimes just doing simple things like making an agreement. We work in the same space. I know none of us do at the moment, but, you know, in the old days, people say we work in the same space. Let's stop emailing each other and go and have a conversation. Just taking ownership of how we want our day-to-day experience to be, from those very small things right into bigger things of let's redesign our vision, let's reconnect to our values. So it can range from the organisational, big and small, and right into the personal of it. You know, it's changed the way that I see the world. It's changed my life. It's changed some of my relationships. It's changed the impact I can have on others. So we get a whole range, really, of feedback.
Yeah, and if colleagues want to find out a bit more, as I'm hopeful they do, where can they go for more information? Well,
definitely the website. So that's grit.org.uk. Once you get onto the website, there is a particular page that under the programmes section that is about the work that we do with professionals. So definitely have a rummage around there. There's some case studies. If you go to the stories page, there's case studies of professionals who've been through the work. There's some films on there as well that you can watch. So there's a whole kind of range of different resources that you can have a look at. And if you're the kind of person that likes to see data and numbers, like what have we actually delivered in terms of impact, there are documents on there that can tell you that as well. So you can get everything on there.
That's brilliant, thank you. I mean, I'm really, really hopeful that colleagues that are watching this are now have their appetite whetted and want to find out a bit more, and hopefully want to come and join us in the work that we're doing as a partnership. So just to remind people, workshop 1, responsibility, is the workshop that everybody who wants to participate has to do as the sort of like the opening ground setting workshop, and then they can either do 2 or 3 or or 2 or 3 as a full set. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
that's right.
that's brilliant. So if you'd like more information about GRIT, Ellie's just shared the website details for you. If you want to find out more about the partnership that GRIT and the Staff College have and the work that we're doing together, then please contact hello@thestaffcollege.uk. And thank you, Ellie and Cara, for joining me today for this recording. And I really hope that we'll be able to work with many colleagues together in the future. So thank you very much. I hope you found this interesting, and we look forward to working with you soon.